Girl, you need to stop skipping shoulders. A lot of women are kind of scared to train shoulders because they think it'll make them look really broad. But I'm telling you, if you train them in the right way, then it's not only going to enhance your entire physique, but it's going to create the illusion of a smaller waist and more of an hourglass figure. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build strong and sculpted shoulders, even if you're just starting out. First, we need to remember that the benefits of training shoulders go far beyond the aesthetics. Yes, it can create that sort of V-tapered look and create the illusion of a smaller waist, but it's actually so important to train your shoulders for your overall longevity. Having strong shoulders can improve your performance in other exercises and reduce your risk of injury, not just in the gym, but in everyday life. So at the end of this video, I'll give you my full shoulder workout with all the exercises you need to target each part of your shoulder and make sure that you're building them in a way that's going to be balanced. Plus, I'll be sharing a whole load of other tips to help you get the most out of your training, so don't skip any of this video, because if you do, you'll probably miss something important. First, we're going to dive into a teeny bit of shoulder anatomy so that we actually know what muscles make up the shoulders and how we can use different exercises to target each part most effectively. Your shoulders are pretty complex and they're made up of loads of different muscles, so we're just going to cover the very basics. The deltoid is what people usually refer to when they're talking about the shoulders, and it's split into three parts. First, there's the anterior deltoid, and this is found at the front of your shoulder. It assists in shoulder flexion, or raising your arm forwards, as well as internal rotation and horizontal adduction. Next, there's the lateral or side delt, and this is on the side of your shoulder, and it's primarily responsible for shoulder abduction, or lifting your arm out to the side. Then we've got the posterior deltoid, or the rear delt, and that's found at the back of your shoulder. It assists in shoulder extension, or moving the arm backward, external rotation, and horizontal abduction. We've also got the rotator cuff muscles, which work together to stabilize and control the shoulder joint. One other thing to mention is that if you are concerned, like if you don't want massive shoulders, then you're not gonna build massive shoulders overnight. It takes years of work and training and dedication to actually build muscle to that extent. The benefits of training shoulders far outweigh any disadvantages, and honestly, the disadvantages are only ones that we think of ourselves and what we want our physique to look like. Because I can't think of any disadvantages to having stronger shoulders. Okay, so I've got 3 quick tips to help you optimize your shoulder training, and then I've got 3 common mistakes that people make so often that will just hold you back. So, tip number 1. Your shoulders are a muscle group just like any other muscle group that you would train in the gym. So if you want to get stronger at squats, you would increase the weight over time. If you want to build your shoulders and either build muscle or build strength, then you're going to want to increase the weight over time. The easiest way to include progressive overload in your shoulder training is 1. Increase the reps. So if you have your rep range, say 8 to 12 reps, start at 8 reps and increase the reps until you can hit 12 reps. Once you've hit 12 reps, increase the weight and repeat the whole process. As you increase the weight you lift or the reps you lift over time, your muscles are going to have to adapt to that, so they will grow as a result. But saying that, if you were happy with where you were at, then you wouldn't have to use progressive overload. So say you reached the physique you wanted or the amount of strength that you wanted and you were happy with. You could just stay at the same weight and keep doing that from week to week and your shoulders would stay the same. But making sure that you train your shoulders regularly will make sure that you maintain that strength and it won't decrease over time, which is something we don't want. Tip number 2 is one that really helped me get more out of my shoulder training, and I think it's made a lot more of a difference when I use it with shoulders than with other muscle groups. That's the idea of mind to muscle connection, and it helps you direct your focus more onto the muscle that you want to work. Naturally, because you're focusing more on the muscle that you want to work, you're shifting some of your focus off of other muscle groups that might kick in, like your traps. I've just thought of this analogy right now, but let me know if it makes sense. It's kind of like if you're wandering around trying to get Wi-Fi and there's a whole load of different networks available. You don't want to connect to your next door neighbor's Wi-Fi or your sister's hotspot. You want to connect to your house Wi-Fi because that's what's going to be strongest. Similarly, with mind to muscle connection, you want to connect to the muscle that you're working. You don't want to connect to other muscle groups because that's not what you're trying to target. I think that analogy might need a bit of work, but I hope that kind of makes sense. I'll go over some more form cues that I found really helpful in the workout at the end of the video, because with shoulders especially, it can be quite easy to end up targeting other muscle groups like your traps because it's a fairly small muscle group, so you need to get that mind-muscle connection connected. Tip number 3 is arguably the most important, and that is prioritize your rest and recovery, because your muscles don't grow in the gym, as you already know. Your muscles grow in the times where you're resting and your body can actually repair the tears that you've created through lifting weights. So make sure that you're fueling your body properly, you're getting enough sleep, you're getting enough water, you're staying hydrated, just all of the general things that I've covered in other videos, and that will help you build strength and build muscle so much faster. Sleep is especially one that I personally need to work on. I've been working on it for a while now, but you know there's days when you're just like, where did the time go? And suddenly it's 11 p.m. and you were meant to be in bed an hour ago. I've had a few of those days recently. I need to dial it back in, and I'm currently building some new routines to get me into the habit of getting all of the sleep that I need a lot easier, so stay tuned. Okay, now for the common mistakes that everyone makes, especially as a beginner. Mistake number 1, over-relying on just one type of press. When I started working out, I didn't know the anatomy that we went over earlier. I just thought your shoulders are your shoulders and you do shoulder press to grow your shoulders, because that made sense in my head. But you need to target the other areas of your shoulders if you actually want them to grow and become balanced. Not to mention, including other shoulder exercises in your routine that aren't just shoulder press is going to make it a lot more interesting for you, so you're going to be so much more likely to actually stick to it and enjoy your workouts. That's the number one thing. If you don't enjoy your workouts, you're not going to stick to it, and if you don't stick to it, you're not going to get results. So it all ties in together, and adding in a variety of different exercises can really help with that. Mistake 2 kind of ties into that, but it can be pretty detrimental in that it can affect your posture and also lead to imbalances, and that's skipping rear delts. Rear delts are honestly quite a tiny muscle, but when I say they're small and mighty, they can change your physique a lot. It's really important to make sure that you train your rear delts, especially if you're someone who does a lot of pressing movements like bench press or chest press, because if you're doing more pressing movements than pulling movements, then over time it's going to have an effect on your posture, and you're going to find yourself more sort of hunched over unless you make the conscious effort to make sure that you're including even amounts of pressing and pulling movements so that your posture sort of stays even. I personally prefer to include more pulling movements than pushing movements because I started off with really terrible posture. Like, look at these two pictures and tell me my posture was not terrible. No, don't tell me, it was really bad. But when I focused more on my rear delts and those movements where I was bringing my shoulders backwards, also working my back, but that's for another video. Nowadays, posture is becoming a lot more of a problem because we're always hunched over either our desk or our phone or just hunched over all day. So we really need to even that out, and training rear delts is just one thing that can help with that. The third mistake is one that I see probably most often, and that is, it just really annoys me. And I used to do it as well, but it's using momentum instead of your muscles. This is most common in dumbbell lateral raises because you've got the weights by your sides, right? And it can be so tempting to just swing the weights up because you're moving the weight and swing them back down again. But when you're doing that, you're taking all of the tension off of your muscle and you're literally just swinging the weight around. It's not going to do anything for you. A lot of the time we tend to use more momentum when the weight is too heavy for us. So what I suggest is grabbing a lighter weight, leave your ego at the door, like completely drop it, pick up the lighter weights instead, and control the movement on the way up. If you have to, hold it, then control it back down. Trust me, you will get so much more out of it that way than choosing a weight that's too heavy for you and just using momentum. There are some people who do go for the really heavy weights and then ego lift to their heart's content, and they do get some results from that because when it comes down to it, they're still lifting. But usually these people are also really consistent with their training, or at least lift pretty intensely. But as they're doing that, they're also putting themselves at a much higher risk of injury, and I don't want that for you. So please stick to weights that you find heavy for you, but you can still lift with proper form. Okay, so now for my favorite part of every video in this muscle growth series. And if you've not subscribed, by the way, you need to subscribe because you're missing out on the muscle growth series. This is episode 3. And we've already learned so much and you guys have been loving it and it's just so exciting. I'm loving the series too. Anyway, it's time for the ultimate shoulder workout. Before we go through the workout, I just want to say I don't train shoulders as a workout of their own. I have an upper lower split, so I would train shoulders in with the other upper body muscles like chest, back, shoulders, arms, You can still take these exercises and fit them into your own routine to build balanced and sculpted shoulders. On top of that, the reps and the sets that I'm going to suggest in this workout may differ from person to person because all of our bodies are different, so we're going to be able to recover from different amounts of training. So really take the reps and sets as a guide and then adjust it to you and your body. First, we've got seated dumbbell shoulder press, and with this movement you really want to engage your core and stabilize your back while avoiding excessive arching. Keep your elbows aligned directly under your wrists as you press and make sure you're controlling the whole movement. In terms of range of motion, you want to lower the dumbbells to about ear level and then press up until your arms are nearly fully extended but without locking out. I would typically do one set of 8 to 10 reps followed by 2 sets of 10 to 12 reps here. Next, we've got lateral raises. You can do these with dumbbells or using the cable machine. Both of them have slightly different resistance curves, so it's really up to you which one you go with. You want to keep a slight bend in your elbows and avoid locking out your arms completely to reduce the stress on your elbow joint and keep the tension on your delts. One thing that really helps me with the mind to muscle connection for lateral raises is imagining myself with 2 jugs and then lifting up the jugs to pour out some water or whatever's in them. Because when you're thinking about it like that, you're sort of leading the movement with your pinky almost, and I feel like that helps me get the best mind to muscle connection. Because we generally use a much lighter weight for lateral raises, I like to increase the rep range for this. So typically 3 sets of 15 to 20 reps. And again, make sure you're raising and lowering the weights with a controlled movement so that you're preventing momentum from taking over. Next, we've got front raises. Some people will tell you that you don't need to do front raises because the front of your delt will be targeted in other pressing movements like chest press or bench press. But I had them in my routine for a long time and I really enjoyed them and feel like they did help develop the front of my shoulder that bit more. You can use 2 dumbbells, but I prefer using just the one. And really, just like the other exercises, make sure that you're maintaining a steady pace up and down, you're controlling the movement and avoiding too much momentum. I'd usually do around 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps here. For rear delts, I've got 2 main options for you. The first one you can do in a lot of different setups. You can use cables, you can use dumbbells, you can use a machine, but it's rear delt flies. General form tips that you'll be able to apply to most of these setups are keeping a soft bend in your elbow and then trying to lead the movement with your elbow to really engage your rear delts. And also picking a slightly lighter, more manageable weight so that you can really focus on the form and prevent other muscle groups from taking over. Another exercise that's really great for targeting the rear delts is cable face pulls. I've tried a few different ways of setting these up, but the one I found that works best for me and helps me target my rear delts most is setting up the cable machine at a medium height using the rope attachment and then sitting on the floor. You'll see different people using different grips on the rope attachment for face pulls. They'll either usually have an overhand grip or an underhand grip. I don't like the overhand grip because I feel like it makes me engage my traps more than my rear delts, so I prefer the underhand grip. And you want to pull the rope towards your face while moving your elbows out and to the sides. Another good cue is to squeeze your shoulder blades together when you get to the back position, hold it for a second, and then repeat. I usually do face pulls for about 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. If you're someone like me who struggles with a bit of a shoulder imbalance, because it's a really real thing and it can be so frustrating, then what you can do is 2 things. First, for any single arm exercises, like if you were doing single arm cable lateral raises, start with your weakest arm first and then match the number of reps with your stronger arm. That way your stronger arm isn't going to end up overpowering your weaker arm, and eventually over time they'll start to balance back out. Another thing you could try if you have a bit of a bigger shoulder imbalance is just working that weaker side for a few extra reps than your stronger side. Obviously, if you have a really serious shoulder imbalance, you should definitely speak to your healthcare provider because they'll be able to help you a lot better. But if you're in the same boat as me and it's just sort of a general annoyance, then those are a couple of things you can try to sort of even it out. You need to remember that shoulder growth, like growing any other muscle group, is going to take time. It's going to take consistency. Since you've made it to the end of the video, I know you've got what it takes to get there. By the way, if you try any of the exercises in this muscle growth series, then let me know. Like, tag me on Instagram at SophieReedFit because I would love to see you guys. I love to see your guys' progress, and it honestly makes me so excited. So if you enjoyed, make sure you subscribed and comment which exercise you want to see next in the series, because we're working our way through the muscle groups, but I want to make sure that I'm making videos that you're going to find most useful first. And I also reply to all my comments, so go check. I really appreciate you. Happy shoulder training. And if you want to catch up on the previous videos in this series, you can check that out next. See you there.